Hello Giants fans, welcome to Giants Baseball 101. I'm Gabe Vaughn, your host. A lot has happened since I was on last, and I want to try to summarize all of that and just say, to the best of my knowledge, what I think about where the Giants are right now. They were ultimately unable to complete the 4-game sweep against the Padres. They lost the last game 10-0. It was just the pitching. It didn't do at that time, and then they didn't score any runs. Although by the third or fourth inning, it was already pretty clear that game was over. But then the Giants took 2 out of 3 against the Dbacks, and Logan Webb started on Friday. He went 7 innings, allowed 4 runs, 3 of them earned. But, it was a deep start. He went through 7, and in that context, it was good enough to win that game. So the Giants, they took 2 out of 3, and now they have retained their half-game lead over the Dodgers in the National League West. Giants are 2.5 games behind the Diamondbacks for first place. The Dodgers are 3 games behind. So it's a half-game lead for the Giants right there. And honestly, I think this is just great position, and it's just everything is good for the Giants all around. Winning the series against the Dbacks too, that was a pretty big one. When you're a team that's just emerging and trying to lock yourself into that first spot, and then you just in the random event of the schedule just comes to light that you're going to be playing that team. That's what this was. Very important series here against the Diamondbacks, and the Giants winning it, it was everything. Yes, I think it was disappointing that they couldn't sweep them in 3 games. I think after having won the first 2, not being able to complete the sweep on Sunday was kind of a bit disappointing here. But they won the series, and that's a good thing. They'll be taking on the Blue Jays next, and I think that going forward, it's just the Giants have really good chances. Now, while it's definitely a reason to be optimistic about where the Giants are and what they've been doing, I also feel like I need to, and how would I say this? I almost feel like I need to kind of prepare you guys for what the process might look like. This is probably a time when, unless you're all focused on the Giants' failure to complete the sweep, it's probably a time when just feeling really good, particularly I think in relation to their division rivals, the Dodgers. It's probably a time when everybody's just feeling really great about that, and the Giants are better than the Dodgers, and that's making your day. And all of that is great. All of that is excellent, and the Giants have certainly defied all of our expectations of a month ago. But I do think that I should prepare you for what realistically the process in this whole fight for the National League West title might look like. And this message is specifically for any of you who might, even if you wouldn't say it, you might have an expectation that this is going to be a little bit more neat and tidy than is realistic. In other words, that the Giants would just sail on from here into a division spot. And if you're feeling like that, and it's getting to the extent where if the Giants and Dodgers once again switched places in the National League West, if the Dodgers got ahead of the Giants again, remember, this is a half-game lead right now. So if the Giants and Dodgers switched places again in the National League West, if you would just feel crushed about if that happens, then that's what I'm kind of trying to prepare you for here. If you would look at that, if the Giants they stayed kind of like this, and then the Giants lost a game and the Dodgers won a game, and it all swung over to give the Dodgers a slight lead. If that happened, and you'd feel all depressed and like your hope is lost, that's the issue that I have to speak to. And you might be looking at this and thinking that it's just going to be a little bit more like everything's just going to be cleaned up right here, and it's going to be clear sailing for the Giants. Realistically speaking, that can't. It really can't be the way we think. And in fact, I expect, however this goes and whatever patterns we see as far as the Giants and Dodgers in winning and all that, whatever patterns we see, I expect this to be just a balance of the scale and it's likely that for at least the next couple of months, this thing between the Giants and Dodgers is going to be a balance of the scale that can just very easily be tipped one way or the other. So I don't expect that it's going to come without the Giants ever having any trouble, without the Giants ever facing a setback. This is a division battle the Giants are in. And in a way, it's got some similarities to 2021. And it's not, neither the Giants nor the Dodgers is as good as they were back then. So it's different in that way. And yet this year's got a lot of similarities. The Giants are jumping onto the scene when nobody expected they would. They've gotten ahead of the Dodgers. Yeah, there are just a lot of similarities there. And this battle, I think it could turn out in very much the same way as in 2021. But the question is, well, I mean, as far as it just being close to the very end. But the question is, can the San Francisco Giants do it? Well, that's what we're going to wait to find out. And it's going to be, there are going to be highs and there are going to be lows. And while I don't know exactly how that's going to turn out, don't think that if the Giants and Dodgers switch places in the division again and the Giants go third, don't think that means that the Giants' hot streak is to be discounted and that we're looking back to the wild card. And even if that happens, if the Dodgers and Giants both get closer, if they can close that gap if the Giants can close that gap between themselves and the Diamondbacks, that is progress no matter what. Because the Diamondbacks have to be unseeded in first place. Now, one other thing here, and it's about the trade deadline getting close and all that, and the Giants who they're going to trade for. And you wonder, and I brought this up about a week ago, you wonder about the possibility of grabbing Shohei Ohtani at the trade deadline. First question is really, is he going to even be available? The second question is, what's it going to cost him? What's it going to cost the Giants? And after all, no one like Ohtani goes for cheap. I'm certain that we can totally expect that. But the question is, if you're asking what exactly should the Giants be willing to give up for Ohtani, and I understand that you don't want to they have to do something. I do understand that you don't want to break your system of prospects and just kind of destroy your future, at least as far as the farm system goes. But I will say that with the draft coming up, it's just that's a reason to really, that's something to really keep your eyes on. It's something very important that the Giants do a good job about selecting players and get some legitimate superstar talent in their system. If the first rounders don't have as significant a probability of reaching the big leagues as anybody, that's going to be an issue. They have to have at least some top-level talent. That's one point you could make. But even the draft goes one way or another. I think you still have to just think about this thing with getting Shohei Ohtani at the trade deadline. And what exactly that would mean, well, they probably haven't even really started negotiation yet, because the Angels aren't even, we wouldn't even know that he's going to go on the market. And the Giants, I doubt that they have openly expressed interest in Ohtani to the Angels. And whether this is more of a media thing, like it's just an idea kind of put forward by the media about the Giants grabbing Ohtani at the deadline, or whether it's something that the organization, that the front office is really thinking about doing, that's a question I can't answer. But either way, I think that it is a possibility, however unlikely it might seem at first glance. But the question is, how important is it? Well, I will just make the point here that the Giants' division competition, that's the one thing where they have to be a little bit more serious about not losing the bid. And the Dodgers, I shouldn't even have to say this, the Dodgers are going to seriously want Ohtani. How do I know this? They always do when there's a great player on the market at the trade deadline. No real question about that at all. That could be the case for the Dbacks as well. I mean, in the National League West, there could be a 3-team kind of battle over him. And yet it's not an accident that I mentioned the Dodgers first when I talked about the Giants' National League West competition, even though the D-backs are the team in first place. It's not an accident I mentioned the Dodgers as being the real threat on Ohtani. And one reason is just their propensity to get the great players. But there's another reason too. Even though the Dodgers are looking more normal this year than before, and that's a big reason why the Giants were able to overtake them, I think that when the postseason comes, they're going to be no less of a seemingly formidable opponent than they'd be in any other year where they're just killing it. If they're the wild card team this year, if they barely sneak in, I am not sure that they're going to be less tough of an opponent. I think there's, and maybe this isn't a claim that I have actual data to back up, but the Dodgers were division winners for 8 straight years, 2013 to 2020. And then, after their little break in 2021, in which they still beat the Giants in the division series, they won the division again in 2022. Now they're just having a year of, maybe we would say, unusual normalness. But I doubt that, based on their recent history, I doubt that means they're going to be any weaker in the postseason. And I wouldn't consider the Dodgers any less of a threat this postseason than you would any other year. Now, to get a real answer to that, I would have to study all the rosters and put all the data together, something that I really didn't have time for this video to do. But this is just my guess. So if that's going to be the case anyway, what would the addition of Ohtani do for the Dodgers? I'm just saying, isn't that the feeling that you get thinking about what a tough opponent the Dodgers always are in the postseason? What a threat pretty much every other contending club feels that they are? It's going to be no different this year. Doesn't the thing speak for itself about why there's such a threat to grab Ohtani? This is where the Giants can't lose the battle. And they have to, no matter what, they have to do something at the trade deadline to grab top-level talent. That is not open to debate. It's just trading for Ohtani is going to be a huge thing. And I still think they should look into doing that. I still think they need to look into getting him. Maybe this is just me, but I'm a big name guy, big name free agent. It's either, if he's going to play in a Giants uniform, it's either going to be they trade for him, deal a lot of prospects, sign him to a huge deal, or both if you're re-signing him at some point. So, something they should look into no matter what. But here's the one situation in my mind where they can't lose the bid. That's if it comes down to a real thing between them and the Dodgers. Therefore, the Dodgers are the team the Giants need to keep their eye on as far as who's getting Shohei Ohtani. When should they be willing to offer something exorbitant in the form of, well, first-round picks, probably, first-round draft picks, guys who would project as something real in the big leagues in their system, and yes, let's just hope they can draft more prospects, obviously. And there are some promising things in their farm system. I'm not saying it's a small thing to say that they'd be getting rid of them. But I think that if it's Giants or Dodgers, that's something the Giants just can't lose. Yes, it does have to do in part with the fact that the Dodgers are in their division, but also if the two teams met in the postseason. It's not at all too early to start thinking about that, whether it was the Wild Card Series or the Division Series or the National League Championship Series. If that happened, isn't it going to make a pretty big difference if the Giants have Ohtani or if the Dodgers do? They already got humiliated by the Dodgers once in the postseason in 5 games of the NLDS in 2021. I mean, I don't know why it happened. It shouldn't have happened. Giants were on track to win it all that year. But that can't happen again. So who are we really afraid of right now as far as what the prospects maybe are at the trade deadline? That, in my mind, is the Dodgers. And if there's one point at which the Giants can't lose a bid for Shohei Ohtani, it would be right there. So I guess that's all for now. I would say that's where things stand as far as things go with the Giants. And, you know, they play as I mentioned, they play the Blue Jays next, and hopefully they can win another series here. And I haven't really checked out the Blue Jays record, how well they're doing this year, but I mean, it should be a good series, and the Giants, they obviously need every series win and every sweep that they can get. Thank you for watching. This has been Giants Baseball 101. Please subscribe if you haven't. Also, please leave your questions and comments. You know where to do it. I'll see you next time on Giants Baseball 101.